Hey guys, so just a little intro before running into the video. So this is just of a recent hamstring rehab session that I done. We were working a little bit more on getting some explosive movements in, but then also kind of just working the hamstrings again in a couple of different positions. So the main injury, just to give you a little bit of context, was a muscle tendon junction injury to the hamstring. So the outer lateral side. So if you were to feel on your leg, the more outer lateral hamstring is where the injury initially occurred. So some of the positions you'll see in the video, I actually have biased them a little bit to try and get a little bit of load into those areas, because after injury sometimes the body is quite reluctant to actually load the injured tissues again. So it's important that we make sure that whatever exercises you pick, that we are getting them and getting them right, and making sure we're loading what we think and want to be loading. So some of the exercises that we've picked out for the session, you'll see the little biases in it. I talked through it. There's little changes to the foot position, and they kind of bring us on from the last stage that we were at. So I just talked through the session, just what we were doing, intro, we done a little warm-up round, and then where we were at. Might do a second video on where we were before this. We used quite a lot of isometric positions and just challenging things, because we had a couple of things that we needed to clean up awareness wise, day to day, not feeling really good through the hammy. So I might do a second video if you'd like on that, just to see, for you to see where we kind of came from in that session to where we came from in this session. But yeah, so I hope this is useful. I hope you find it helpful, and lots of options in there if you're struggling with anything hamstring wise, and maybe to work on and look at getting yourself a little bit more robust. And if you have any questions, or you want to drop me a little comment in the section at the bottom, please do, and hope you enjoy. 3 rounds before we went into our main session. So the 3 rounds we done was of this. So the first one is an RDL to hip lock with a plate punch. So we're just coming up into the hip lock, plate punch, and then we're coming back into the RDL with a plate punch. And we just done, I think we've maybe done 6 to 8 of these on the left, and then swapped 6 to 8 on the right before moving into the next exercise. And I quite like these. You're getting quite nice load into the hamstring, into the hip. And then the plate punch is just challenging the system a little bit. And then we went into these. So I think these are called swan hops. So we got into this kind of RDL hinge position again, and we added in these hops, which I quite like, because I feel like these challenge a little bit, and this is kind of a nice position to kind of get into when we're ready for the hamstrings as well. You can see he's nearly fallen over, which is good, because it means he's challenging and he's having to work pretty hard here and figure out how to control the position. And then we went into, so these were our 3 exercises to go through for 3 rounds. We went into this hinge to axle. Again, he's pushing forward into the bar, so it's kind of like a horizontal force. And he's getting some hip extension before knee extension. He's trying to keep his shin pinned down low and forward. And I'm just cueing him here, don't touch my hand, don't touch my hand. And he's kind of getting a nice push through his ankle and his calf, and then loading into that hip and driving forward. And it's quite nice to start getting back into some explosive stuff when you've been maybe not able to do that for a while with hammy issue. So then we got into the rack. You'll see I've got his foot turned in here, because we were playing around with how we wanted to get a little bit more load into the outside portion of the hamstring. So we found having the foot turned in slightly here was nice, and he was able to load up the outer side of that hamstring a bit more. So he hinges over the bar, plate punches, and then he's driving his hip or his belt buckle forward to come back up. So he's pushing into the bar, and then he's just hinging down, plate punch, pushing his hips into the bar to come back up. And we're just thinking hip extension, so hammies help with hip extension. So this is kind of a long position for that, hip extension. And then we go into a short position for hip extension. So it's a weighted single leg glute bridge, being nice and kind of keeping a nice position of our spine, and making sure the glute is doing a lot of work in that position. So then what we done was we got into this kind of ballistic short to long catch for the hammy. I cued him here because he had 1 or 2 where our hip kind of dropped down as he caught himself on the bench. So I'm cueing him to have a strong hip position. So there, his hip doesn't drop back down. He's staying strong in a kind of a top hip extension position. He's kind of closing, doing a crunch, tucking the pelvis and exploding up and being nice and strong. This position is similar. He's in that kind of short loop bridge position and then going and exploding up, except this time he's hitting the box, and so you're getting a little bit of calf and ankle coming to the party as well. And then some good old-fashioned weighted sliders, so foot straight for these ones as we lengthen to come out, and then foot turned out, again playing around to try and get into that outside portion of the hammy and just trying to get a nice all-round load through the hamstrings.